Tim, Lachlan,
Howdy.
and Ruben.
Hey.
So, the purpose of this episode is I haven't decided what we're going to do next as far as books are concerned, and we're going to instead just record this process and make it an episode so everyone can see what this looks like. So, you can't do that without a beer, but I don't have a beer, I have a cider. This is one of those cloudy apple ciders that we got from Bilpin.
It's kind of like a local one.
It's local-ish. I realised today I only had 2 left, so we're going to have to do another trip soon.
Yep. Count me in.
How about you, Lachlan? What are you drinking?
I've got a bit of Crawford's orange gin, which is nice and refreshing. It's pretty warm today. Need a refreshing drink.
Could fall in love with an orangutan in there. Movie reference. How about you, Ruben? What are you drinking?
I've got the Captain tonight. Old Trust.
Oh, Captain Morgan.
Mm.
I nearly bought a bottle of that today. I was at the bottle shop, and I got another bottle of Kraken because I just love the stuff.
Why not?
But yeah,
if you're going to grab the Captain, get it from Aldi. It's always about $5 to $7 cheaper there.
Okay, noted.
Hot tip.
That is a hot tip. Okay, so we last week finally wrapped up our read-through of The Republic by Plato, featuring Socrates, and now we need to decide what we're going to do next. So for those of you at home, The Republic was basically Ruben's suggestion. It was the one he wanted to do. So he's kind of gone, well, I chose the last one, so someone else can choose this one. And
it's not that I couldn't. It's not that I couldn't list about 3 or 4 books I'd love to do for the next one, but I just don't think it'd be fair.
So, yeah. So now we're at this point where we're like, well, what do we read? And Lachlan, what were your thoughts on the issue?
Well, I kind of felt that we should kind of continue the old school vibe that we were going with the Republic and have a look at a few more classics. It's really the angle I was coming from. Yeah.
So I'm on board with this. I'm on board with going old school. But which old school? That's the question. So I have some suggestions that I wanted to table, and then I figured we could discuss and you guys could maybe add some other suggestions to the table. So the first one on my list is... Oh, sorry, Gary.
Well, is there a consensus that we're going to stay ancient?
I can tell by Tim's face that he's going to be testing that theory, I have a feeling.
Well, that was...
let's let the surprise unfold. Go, Tim. Give us your give us your list. Let's have a look.
That was what I felt everyone wanted.
Yeah.
But I may be wrong about that. So my first book to put forward as a potential is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which I have read before. But it's a book that when I read it, I found heaps of things in it really helpful, and they're things that I use at least weekly. So, that's certainly one that I would enjoy reading with you guys and seeing what you guys think about it, and I'm sure we'd learn some more things. The next one that I was considering was Letters from a Stoic by Seneca, and I've read a couple of them. That's a really big book. Probably wouldn't work through the entire book, would probably just choose I don't know, 5 or 10 of those letters and work through them and have a discussion about those. And the last one was I can't quite remember the correct name for it, but it's the trial of Socrates. Is that the right? Have I said the right thing there, Ruben?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's called Plato's Apology, and sometimes called the Trial of Socrates.
Yeah. So that's the third one I was considering tabling, because I think it'd be cool to stay with Plato and Socrates, and now that we've worked through his ideas and that classic about him, to then look at that and see what that has to say, and if any of his opinions moved or changed or anything like that. So there you go. I've tabled my 3 ideas. So let's discuss them one by one, I reckon, and see what everyone thinks. So meditations. What are your thoughts, Ruben? And go.
Well, hold on.
And no pressure.
No. When we read the Republic, I'd not read that before. So there was sort of, we're all on an even. None of us had read it before. The problem with your recommendations is 2 of them you've read, or so one of them you've read, one you've partially read, and then the problem with the third one, the Plato's Apology, is I've read it. So if we want to maintain the it's all fresh material for all of us, we don't have to. I'm just saying if that's our approach, then it'll only leave the middle one, letters to something.
Letters from a Stoic.
Yeah, letters from a Stoic. I'm not suggesting we have to go with that strategy, but that's just one. That's one option for looking at it.
I think the counter to your measure you've used there, Rubes, would just be that I suppose like the process that we use to sort of go through it, and because we sort of break it down small and have a big conversation about it, you probably get something different out of it from maybe having done the read through last time. But
yeah, that's fair. As Timmy said, he's interested to see what our thoughts are on a book that he's enjoyed. So
yeah.
I'm
interested in meditations. Just I think he's an interesting character in history, and certainly it's got some cachet and credibility to it as well, like similar to the Republic did. I mean, and so does Letters from a Stoic as well, I suppose. Like it's sort of coming out of that same sort of hymn sheet. But yeah, look, I'd certainly happy to read about Marcus Aurelius and all that sort of stuff. I think it sounds really interesting.
Well, I mean, Marcus Aurelius was emperor, right?
Yep.
So he was basically a king, and he was a philosopher. So that kind of bleeds into the last book, because that's what Socrates was pushing for.
It does.
Yeah.
What about Seneca? What was Seneca? Where did Seneca land? Was he an advisor, or he was never quite emperor?
Around the time of the Apostle Paul, actually, I think. I'm just trying to get the exact dates, but I'm pretty sure his brother met Paul or discussed things with Paul in tradition.
Yeah, right. But he wasn't an emperor himself or anything.
No. I'm just looking up on him now. So he was born in Spain over 2,000 years ago, educated in Rome. He was son of Seneca the Elder, well-known Roman writer. He pursued a career in politics and became a high-ranking financial clerk. Yes. Just trying to see what else he did. Anyway, he's got a lot of books. There's other books on his. So there's one called On the Shortness of Life. That's one I would like to read.
Yeah.
I've skimmed it, but I don't really remember it. I I think I found like this old PDF version on a Kindle once and skimmed it, but I certainly didn't go into it in depth. So that would be another one. I'm pretty sure there's one that he does about what's it called, about man. It's Seneca. Man. Is it the I can't remember. I'll look it up in a minute. But yeah, Seneca did a lot.
Yeah.
Now, just to note, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, that is a journal. So it's a very different sort of read to what we just read.
Yeah.
It is a bit... You got to go digging for the gold. It's not as easy to work through and entertaining.
What do you mean digging for the gold? You mean like he talks about what he had for dinner and the status of the crop season, how the crops are going that season, and then in there somewhere there's philosophy mixed in the middle, or?
Yeah, like, well, think of it like it's a journal of someone who was a student of philosophy, but it wasn't written to be a book on philosophy.
Yeah, right.
So there's examples of how he applied his philosophy and things that he would say to himself as he wrote his diary about how to try and embody his philosophy. So he would talk about, like, today I'm going to meet with the slanderer and all these different things, like different negative types of people, and then remind himself that he doesn't have to react to them and that he can behave in the way that he chooses to. So it's just more things like that, like insight into how he sort of thought and
Yeah, right.
So that, but there's heaps of gold in there, particularly if, like in my workplace, I'm a leader, and having that book, it's a good reference, because man, he had to lead through some pretty hard times, some crappy situations. Okay. Other anything else you guys want to put forward besides? So we've talked about meditations a little bit. We've talked about. We haven't talked about Letters of a Stoic too much, or Letters from a Stoic too much. Have you looked up?
I don't know
that book at all?
too much about that one, to be honest. Other than knowing of Seneca by way of reputation, but I don't know much about his work or his writings. So that one's a bit of a mystery for me.
How about you, Ruben?
Yeah, I only know Seneca by name. I'm kind of in the same boat. I think with Plato's Apology, I like the idea of going to the end of Socrates' life and, like you say, seeing where his ideas moved or see how they culminated and so on and so forth. But I think the thing about Plato's writings and Socrates is there's so many of them, and I think there's probably one or two that we might want to read before we get to the end of his life anyway. Like his Symposium talks about what love is and things like that. So like they're considered pretty foundational texts as well. So I don't think there's any rush getting to the end of Socrates' life.
Yeah.
And plus, we just did one Plato, so there's no reason we can't come back to Plato again at another time.
Well, that's right. So, okay. Well, to me, that sounds like we're parking Plato for now.
That's cool.
So, just looking here.
There's one other sort of author of that sort of era that always seems to pop up when you're looking at this stuff too. What's it, Epictetus or something like that, I think his name is.
Yeah, that was actually that was going to be my curveball throw in about 5 minutes. In case we started with these three, because I haven't read any of his stuff.
Sure.
So that's certainly one we could do too. I'll just see.
Well, another option that we can look at, maybe not in this round, is we can go back, because basically the big one after Plato is Aristotle. So we could do some Aristotle at some point as well, and sort of work our way forward.
Yep. I wouldn't mind tackling some Aristotle as well. I think it's probably just a question of just picking the right text, because I know we sort of had that conversation before about some of it being a bit dry as well, and we just have to make sure we pick our mark there if we're going that way.
Yeah, well, I would want to do on rhetoric, only because it's about persuasion. So I think that'd be interesting.
Sure.
The Nicomachean ethics is supposed to be pretty foundational as well. But I mean, if we're not strictly speaking trying to go chronologically, so we can come back to Aristotle at a later date.
Yeah.
Well, Epicurus, coming back to Epicurus, I'm just looking up. They reckon there's, according to what I'm looking here at Wiki, there's like 44 different writings of his for the major works. He does one called like On Love, and
he was either contemporary to or prior to Socrates, I think. That's Epicurus, but then there's Epictetus as well. They're two different dudes. Epictetus is a Stoic, and I think Epicurus was like, actually, I'm not sure where he fits into it, but he was, I thought he was Greek.
I'm just looking here.
Yeah, Epictetus was the one that I'd come across. It's called the Enchiridion, I think was the book. It's fairly short though. It's only like 26 pages, so you could almost like slam dunk that one and and move on to the next.
Yeah, sure. One episode, right?
That's how it works.
Don't jinx us. Oh my gosh. Alright, so no writings by Epictetus are known. His discourses were transcribed and compiled by his pupil Arrian. The main work is the Discourses, 4 books of which have been preserved out of the original 8. He also did a popular digest entitled the Enchiridion, or Handbook.
That's what you just mentioned, I think. Yeah.
That's what I just mentioned, yeah.
Look, I'm happy to go there because I haven't read anything from him.
Well, it might be of interest too, because it's written of note that it was popular for intellectuals and anti-Christian thinkers. So I'm curious what ideas he's got inside there.
Is that Epictetus or Epicurus?
Epictetus, the Enchiridion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think Tim just mentioned that something about Arian.
Yes.
If that's the Arian, there was something called the Great Arian Heresy, which happened early on in the church.
Okay.
My very limited knowledge of that is essentially that he was the bloke who denied the deity of Christ, I think.
There you go.
And apparently got a lot of headway early on. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I just looked up Epictetus. He's AD 55 to AD 135. Greek sage and Stoic philosopher. Born a slave, lived in Rome, and then fled to Greece.
Okay, well, what do you think?
I'm pretty relaxed with any of the selections, to be honest. I I think Epictetus might be a bit of fun, and in the sense that, you know, if we find we don't love it in any case, it's a fairly short read, so we can always move on to another one fairly quickly.
Well,
All right, so
if it's only 27 pages, why don't we look at doing that as well as one of the three that Tim organised?
Yeah.
Particularly, I mean, if one's a diary, one's a journal, and one's a series of letters, we could sort of interpose them without too much disruption.
well, if let's start with Epictetus. Hopefully we can smash that out in a couple of weeks, and then jump on to whatever the next one is. What do you think?
Sorry, I cut out pretty badly then. I didn't hear any at all
okay.
about the last 5 seconds.
So did I.
I was just saying we could just do Epictetus, because it will be short and sweet. See what he has to say, and then maybe move on to. I think I'd like to do Seneca before Meditations.
Yeah, all right. What's your rationale there?
I think, as I was saying, Meditations is written by a guy that liked the Stoics. So I think to understand what he's talking about, probably need to understand a little bit what's influenced him.
Righto.
So
sounds like a plan.
Go. All right. So what's the book we're doing from Epictetus?
I like this Epictetus idea because that's real left field. I've no idea what to expect on that, so it'll be good.
So we're doing Discourses or the Enchiridion?
I like Enchiridion. I'm just going purely off how epic that title sounds.
Yeah, it was Enchiridion. It was 26 pages. I don't know about the other one. Was it Discourses? Was it?
Yep. All right. Well, that's it. Decision made.
Lock it in.
Bang! Look at that. It took us 22 minutes, and we have a decision. And then I'll find the Seneca book I want to do that I haven't read yet, because I know he's got heaps, and I like some of what I've read of his, but there's a lot that I haven't read. So,
dang! I just looked up the Discourses. 530 pages. So it's a
ouch.
It's a different jam.
Didn't they just say that they only found half of it? Like 4 out of 8?
I don't know.
That's the 4 of the 8, I guess.
Holy moly. How did they make such long books when they didn't have
you know what?
press?
It's probably got lots of annotations at the start. You know what I mean? How it's the same with the Republic. It had big chunky annotations at the start. Well, in my copy did anyway.
Yeah.
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 Oh, we have it. We have a winner. So that is what we will do next.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Now we all just have to make sure that we get the exact same copy, so that when we read it, we're reading the same thing.
Yes. So
well, I'm thinking we're going to have to go electronic copies, because good luck finding copies of that in Western Sydney.
Fair point. Okay, well, let's go with that. So now that we've made that decision, I reckon we head on down to the pub for lots of us.
Sure.
And here we go. I'll insert music here. All right, and let's talk some nonsense for a little bit, and then we'll sign off.
Let's do that.
Cars. We've been looking at cars a lot this week, talking in the chat.
It's gone.
The car market is crazy right now, as is real estate. But Russia's looking like they're going to misbehave. Do you think that if that happens, you know, all these markets are going to suddenly change in Australia? Do you think it'll impact, you know, home loans and house prices and used car market? What are your thoughts, Lachlan?
Kind of depends, I think, on look, how much they muck up and what the world's reaction is going to be. I don't think anyone really wants to go to war, but I don't know. Maybe that's what he's banking on and that he figures he can just kind of like waltz on in and take it. But obviously, the US president sort of said if they do that, rather than war, he's saying that they're going to cut them access to the international payment system, which is the SWIFT payments they're called. And by doing so, that'll really sort of damage their international trade. So I don't know. It's interesting to see if that would sort of be the. I mean, they can do that, but I can't see Russia, if they've started to occupy Ukraine, so saying, "Oh, you've cut our access to the SWIFT code. Oh, we'll walk back to Russia now." I can't see that stopping. So. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see. Look, nobody wants it to escalate, but I think Putin's a pretty, stalwart and set sort of man. So if he's got a plan and he wants to do something, he's probably going to do it. It's just, I think, more interesting to sort of see what happens with the trade with China as a result of that, though, too. Whether that sort of helps China-Russia relations, and that could get very interesting in the global context, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
But I think that if that does sort of play out that way, then there could be a bit of cascading issues. But I would hope that it sort of de-escalates. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to put faith in the world being a little bit more progressive than maybe what we had been in the past, but I don't know if that's hopeful or naive or both. But
I think you can hope that for the West. I'm not sure that you can for those who are not part of the West. So yes, what are your thoughts, Ruben? Anything to add there?
I don't know enough about it, to be honest. I just hope if there's an open conflict, they leave our boys out of it.
Yeah. I don't think they'd be sort of sending any troops. It sort of sounds like it's more going to be I don't know, supporting the Ukraine rather than sort of like actively putting troops on the ground. There's lots of countries that are sort of on the borders around there that are now NATO country, or NATO subscribers or what have you, who didn't used to be, and they can put troops into there, but that doesn't mean you're going to have actual conflict. So I don't think anyone's going to have the taste after having just pulled out of Afghanistan and the kind of mess that happened when all that sort of unfolded. Like, it was only last year, right? So I can't see anyone being in a real rush to send troops in.
Yeah.
Could be wrong, though. We'll see.
Okay.
But
my second topic for the Pub Philosophers, if we're done with that one, is it's to do with Star Wars. One of my favourite things to love and also get frustrated by. Something occurred to me. I was watching some guy talking about Star Wars, and he made note that there'd been a survey of the top villains in movies and shows and stuff, and there's like 100 different villains listed, and Palpatine didn't make it into any of them. And once he explained why he thought that was bad, I agreed with him. But what it made me realise is, and I know that none of us are massive fans of the prequels, but I want to put forward this, and this guy didn't say this, but I want to put this forward to you. I think if you watch the prequels as the Palpatine trilogy, not the Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker trilogy, you can see that George Lucas directly lifted Palpatine's rise to power from the Republic.
All right.
Yeah.
It's been too long for me having watched it, so not sure I
basically
can really comment on that.
He creates chaos and then comes in as the savior, and then once he's the savior, makes more enemies appear, and you need me to keep everything safe, and then gets
Oh,
granted
you mean
emergency
like
powers.
you mean like Socrates' shift from democracy to tyranny?
Yeah,
Is that what you
That's
mean?
what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. No, that
seriously,
checks out.
yeah. Watch it with that. Put that hat on. Take off the.
Mm.
We're watching the Genesis of Darth Vader. Throw that hat away, and put on the. We're watching the journey of democracy into tyranny, and Palpatine's like a direct lift from the Republic.
All right. The that what you mentioned there too, that whole about thing creating different enemies. I mean that's something that Orwell talked about as well. If you read 1984, he references the one minute you're at war with one faction, the next minute you're at war with the other, and the other faction were always your friends. That kind of stuff. Just trying to keep everyone scared and compliant.
Rewrite all the propaganda every time, don't they? They keep changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So
was it the 1 minute of hate a day or something they had? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've read 1984.
I forget how long, 6 minutes or something. I don't know.
6 minutes of hate, yeah.
6 minutes seems like a long time.
It does. That's a lot of hate.
It happens every time they play All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. There's your 6 minutes of hate for a group of people.
Well, I wanted to I don't know whether I mentioned this before, but I wanted to put up a meme around the COVID time because I was going to have a meme that said, Orwell brought you however many minutes of hate. Gladys Berejiklian brings you 11 a.m. fear session or something like that.
Yeah, it was like that.
It really was like that. Every day at 11 a.m. Gladys would come on and tell us how scared we should be and how compliant we should be. And it did say a lot of officers would stop and they'd sit there and they'd watch that morning 11 a.m. COVID report. And I was like, this is Orwell, but it's fear instead of hate.
Yeah, that was the same at my workplace. Everyone would stop and you'd listen to the news and hear the count and is there more restrictions?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
I think some people saw it as unifying. I saw it as a control technique.
Yeah. You can be unified in fear, though, right?
True. Like Palpatine.
Yeah,
that was his plan. From what Timmy was saying.
Yes. So I put it to you. Rewatch the original, well, not the original, the prequels, but through that different lens, and I think it becomes much more interesting when you watch it through that lens, and I can completely now see what he was trying to do when he was making that. Yeah, it's totally changed my opinion. So reading the Republic has changed my understanding of Star Wars, which never thought that would be a thing.
I don't know. That's a bit of a commitment to sit down and watch those three movies again.
I actually watched the first two again not long ago, and I'm going to sit down and watch the third one again. I don't know, I'll watch them every now and then. The prequels, whilst they weren't brilliant, I remember somebody saying that they'd actually aged all right, and so I thought, I'll go back and give them another crack. It's okay.
They're certainly better than 7, 8, and 9.
Do we have to do like a trilogy? Should we rewatch them over a period of time and then do an episode, like a platonic review of the first? Those Star Wars or something.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
A review through Plato's lens or something. That'd be interesting. We could do that.
Yeah.
So does he have a noble lie to bring them all together?
Metachlorians.
Oh yeah, that's the
gold or the silver.
Unifying myth.
Yeah. The Jedi are the guardians. They're all dispossessed and don't want possessions, and they're there to serve the Republic.
It's true.
I mean, it's called the Republic, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Nothing's new under the sun, right?
It's true that.
True.
Well, I reckon we wrap it up there, fellas. Keep it short and sweet. And for those listening, we will put on Facebook what version we're going to use. Gents, one of the things I wanted to trial, just before we go, is I actually want to read, and I'm happy to do this before we do our episode and put it in post-production. But I actually want to read the part we're going to discuss as part of the episode. Because I think a lot of people listening often don't have time to keep reading it.
Yeah.
Which was one of the attractions of meditations, because it's in tiny little snippets. We could read like the snippet we're discussing at the start and then talk it through, kind of like if you're doing a Bible study and you read a few Bible verses and then talk about it. So I want to try that out with this book. Given it's only 20 something pages long, we should in theory be able to, I don't know, read 2 or 3 pages at the start and then discuss that. But until we look at it, we won't really know. So let's have a look at it and see if that'll work, and we'll go from there.
See if people like it, like that format too.
Yep. All right. Well, the Republic wasn't built in a day, and neither middle-aged men, and neither is choosing what book to do next. So thanks for bearing with us, and we'll catch you guys soon with our first episode covering this new book. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.